Tons-on-Noot Airport was on fire, the same stretch of tarmac that had carried off Glenn. My boy was loaded onto a plane in a box, then taken home. Him and all the strangers I never knew. Their bodies all went up that runway, and now it's cratered, punched into dust by the advancing Viet Minh. Saigon's in turmoil. That's what they say. Between my bouts of fever and the light of the morning, I can hear the thunder of artillery on the city's edge. They have come to end the war. General Smith showed me the damage. I didn't want to hear it at first. Bad enough that we've had people fleeing for a month. Now they can't catch a plane. They expect us to get them out. I'm not convinced it's time. I won't be the one to give the order. I think we still have options. Options. That's what they call it. A euphemism to hide the raw, painful truth that things are falling apart, and they're falling apart quickly. I have options. None of them are good. I can't eat. My gums feel swollen, my head hurts. I'm sick of listening to the diplomats, to the army, to the CIA all damn day. They say it's time to evacuate the embassy. Good. Go then. You go. I'll stay. I can't stand losers. And I can't stand people who run from a fight I know we can win. Because we've won before, haven't we? America doesn't lose wars. America ends them. I was there to see it. I'm standing on the deck of the USS Missouri. There's hundreds of us, all standing and watching a small man hunched at a table. In the words he signs, he dismembers his empire, surrenders his homeland and shackles his nation to the victors. It's 1945. I'm a young man again, working as an officer in Army intelligence. Around me are the faces of others who would grow old with the lessons of this moment, the lessons of this world war. MacArthur's there. General MacArthur, Field Marshal MacArthur. I wish now that he'd been here in Vietnam. We'd never have settled, never sought peace by surrender. He'd have bombed Hanoi flat and then pushed on into China and ended it once and for all. Give me MacArthur over Westmoreland. Give me 5 General MacArthurs, and we would roll back the tide and free this country, free the whole world from totalitarianism. But it was to be me and my generation who would have to lead in the decades to come, to have the great burden of victory fall on us, to have this moment hang over us, the daunting expectations of empire. When I watched the Japanese sign the instrument of surrender, I knew that their defeat was total. There was no honour in defeat, only an ending. I could never live with the shame of that. I still don't know how they did it. Now in all my dreams it's me at the table being asked to sign away the sacrifices of all our men, our soldiers, the South Vietnamese who shared our mission, pen the drips with blood on the page. Never. I will never sign it. You can't make me sign that. It's night. There's gunfire in the darkness, the low rumble of invisible battle, the chaos of the day is hidden for now. A smoky orange haze dots the city, the barrels of burning classified documents. They've started already, not even waiting for my orders. I feel my world shrink to this compound. These walls, this office, the embassy lawn, the shade of the great Tamarind Tree. I think about Paris after the war. There were nights like this, looking into the dark, wondering what I'm doing, where I'm going. When you're young, you can do that. You have time to waste. But I'm an old man now. God, it's hot. Still running a fever. When I lie in bed, I feel like I'm upside down, like a circus act, or like Mussolini, just swaying dead for the crowd. That's what they'll do to me when the communists find me. They'll take me and they'll kill me. Delusions of grandeur. The sign of a weak man. I'm sorry. My thoughts run into fantasy more and more. Still, I know what happens. If not me, then someone else will swing in the streets in my place. There's no shortage of American collaborators. I came to this country in 1973, about 2 months after the last combat troops left Vietnam. I believed in our mission here. I still believe it. Prevent the spread of communism in Southeast Asia. Defend the freedom and liberty of the South Vietnamese. That is our mission here in Saigon. South Vietnam is not so much a country, you see. It's more of a single domino in a line that stretches out to cover the rest of the free world. I don't speak the language. I speak French, which they used to speak here. High society still speaks it, a layover from the colonial era. I know a lot about this country, but I don't travel. It's too dangerous. I spend my days looking at maps of this land, talking about its history, speaking to its diplomats and leaders. But in many ways, I'm still a stranger to it. But even a stranger can care. I believe that. I will do right by these people who have fought with us and placed their trust in American honour. For it is the people of America who have staked their valour, their sons and treasure in this place to defend it from an evil that threatens us
of the United Nations, are determined to save succeeding generations from the scourge of war, which twice in our lifetime has brought untold sorrow to mankind, and to reaffirm faith in fundamental human rights.
I'm standing on a road far from the city. I know it's somewhere I haven't been before. I look around. I don't know how I got here. I see a farmer working in the field planting his crops. Maybe a distant ancestor of mine, one who knew about land and agriculture, might have recognised his techniques. Were it not for the language barrier, they might have exchanged words about the soil, the season, the harvest. They'd have spoken the language of the fields. But to me, they looked so alien, with their strange movements and tools. And to them, I must look like a foolish child, a white stranger from a people who'd forgotten how to farm, here to plant bombs in the earth and then fly away. I had hoped to leave more for these people than bombs. I have protected my country for decades, serving 6 administrations, 6 presidents who have gradually sought to stake our interests in this country. I will not take the blame for their mistakes. It would be idiotic. It would be unfair to pin years of policy on one man, see? But it's not so simple. The CIA has a problem with accepting blame or responsibility. They'd much rather I be scapegoated. They've already started abandoning the country, you know. Even though I've not given the order to evacuate. They are pulling the rug out from under me and undermining my position as ambassador. This is my embassy, which means it is my responsibility. I decide when we go, and I say we still have time. Thomas Polgar, the CIA man in Saigon, he's just a patsy. You can spot a Kissinger man anywhere. He tells me they're beginning the helicopter airlift at dawn, which is insane. The VC aren't even in the city and they want to run. I've been trying to get through to President Ford all week. I can reach out to the Politburo in Hanoi and have a ceasefire put into effect. In line with the Paris Treaty, we have the provision and the immunity to arrange for a phased withdrawal on account of... Look, the details can be sorted out later, but things need to start happening soon. I need to keep calling, but my body is so weak. I feel old. Like I'm dying. Riddled with this sickness, this jungle pneumonia. I can't work. I can barely stay lucid sometimes. They do not get to dictate the timetable of an American withdrawal. They do not. Polgar keeps calling me. He wants to cut down the trees in the courtyard so that we can land helicopters here and evacuate. Cut down the whole garden, including the big one out front, the tamarind. I keep telling him he is out of his mind. That tree was planted in 1945 after the victory over the Japanese. It is a symbol of American resolve and our commitment to Vietnam. No one cuts down that tree unless I say so. I was born on the eve of the Great War, in the early days of the Wilsonian Age. I lived to see the two great Teutonic migrations of the 20th century. My father was a Baptist minister, a kind man, taught me right and wrong. Somewhere along the way, I don't know, maybe I forgot. But his world was not my one. He never had to make the choices I have. What would some country preacher know of helicopter war, of body count and search and destroy? He couldn't point out Indochina on a map. He never had to walk through its jungle, shooting at shadows, burning huts. None of them have, none of the decision makers. Oh, this is Nixon's fault. He set me up with this. Hands me the posting and knows that I'll be blamed when it all falls apart. At least he got what was coming to him. I hope he's in agony, humiliated and in exile. But I know that's to be my fate soon. I'm finished after this. There's no coming back. More painkillers. Numb the fever. Bring my boiling body to a simmer. Oh, they're all to blame. The great and wise men who led us to this disaster. The whole goddamn circus. America hates losing. And it hates losers the most. I keep thinking that we've been here before. Out west in Indian country, in the Philippines, Japan, Korea, and now Vietnam. We're always trying to look in places we don't belong, staring into the pool, hoping we can recognize ourselves in the eyes of strangers. I've looked long enough to know the truth. I can see it on their faces, staring back at me in the darkness beneath my eyelids. Hate. Even after all we did for them, they hate us. It's because they know what we can do. They know what we'll do to win, and they're so ungrateful. Even after we flattened half this country to help them, we did it all to help, to save them, killed for them, died for them. I believe in our mission still. I do. I will not be remembered as a defeatist peacenik who handed Les Xuan the capital. In the councils of government, we must guard against the acquisition of unwarranted influence,
whether sought or unsought, by the military-industrial complex. The potential for the disastrous rise of misplaced power exists and will persist.
I open my eyes. It's morning. There's fire across the city, rockets landing to the north of us. The attack is underway. The bastards are not going to let us go easily. I just need to speak to Ford. If he knew the situation, then he could intervene. We could stop this. It's not too late to turn the tide. This is the Arvins Valley Forge, a Vietnamese Gettysburg, you see? It's not over, and I know how we can beat them. And if we did, it would be incredible. It would be the greatest military victory of a generation, that we alone, without help, could cling to Vietnam, or even just Saigon. I need to speak to the president. I need to speak to Kissinger. I was not appointed ambassador to give this country away. Was I? I will not have it be said that the Soviet Union or Communist China are more reliable partners than the United States. We will not leave these people here. And if we leave them, then I vow to return. Like MacArthur, I shall return. All it takes is the will and the strength to fight. Like Glenn, like my boy who fought for his country with valour. He died defending Vietnam. He died defending freedom. To ask that I be the one to give it all up, I can't. I can't do it. I won't. I'll die fighting them. I'll shoot every last one before they take this embassy. Oh, Kissinger should be here. He should be here and live up to his word. Send in the bombers, drop the atomic fire on them and stop this. Drop a hydrogen bomb on them, and our enemies will be reminded of who we are, the greatest military power in the history of the world.
Few people laughed. Few people cried. Most people were silent. I remembered the line from the Hindu scripture, the Bhagavad Gita. Vishnu is trying to persuade the prince that he should do his duty, and to impress him takes on his multi-armed form and says,
Well, I'm not a crook. I've earned everything I've got.
Saigon is overflowing with refugees fleeing the fighting. They come from all over the country, hundreds of thousands of them. We can't possibly separate them on a case-by-case basis. They're all over the embassy walls now. South Vietnamese desperate to get away. They're giving away their children. Thomas is sitting across from me. He tells me that the CIA has already started moving their people out. It took everything in my power not to scream at him. Is he so willing to give up? Is this all it takes to break our promise? I am the one who decides, and if we have to leave, then I want more time. I want to get as many Vietnamese out too, not just Americans. I want families, government workers, translators, drivers. I want to do right by these people. These people. This country. This place where we have gone to fight. When I stood on the deck of the Missouri, there was something else happening here. In 1945, it was Ho Chi Minh who declared Vietnam's independence from the French. He spoke the words that I live by. All men are created equal, he said. They are endowed by their Creator with certain inalienable rights: life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. These were the first words spoken by a free people, the echoes of our own history. Sometimes I think we're very good at making the wrong enemies. I look at them and I think, we didn't need to go to war with these people. We both rebelled against colonial powers. Their struggle is more about independence than it is about communism. The war should have ended when the French left 20 years ago. None of this would have happened. Things would have been different. In all my dreams, I'm back home on the shore of Lake Douglas, watching the sunset, having a beer. Glenn's there. There's so much I want to say to him, but can never find the words. He just puts a hand on my shoulder. Then I wake up. I never get to tell him how sorry I am that he died for nothing. I hope he can forgive me. They've started to cut down the trees. I can hear the saws outside, the wood snapping, falling to the ground. The tamarind gives way, slumping like a vast, sick giant, leaning and then sinking to the concrete below. Do these people out there with their saws and blades know what they've done? The thing they have killed, the promise they have destroyed, and with it, American honour is killed. American lives are forgotten. It has to be done. We're finished here. It's over. I lie on the floor and watch the ceiling tiles turn into waves like the swaying tide in the Gulf of Tonkin. I think of Glenn, taken from us so young. His body's now in the ground beneath a field of white tombstones in the gentle slopes of Arlington. I know I'm no longer in control. Maybe I never was. Caught up in the storm like the rest of them. I just didn't want to admit it. Oh, everyone's so goddamn sensitive. They couldn't tell it to my face. They couldn't tell me I'd lost my mind. They just carried on like I wasn't even here. During the day, the embassy smells of sweat, smells of sweet terror. It's infectious. The way it sticks to you makes you afraid, messes up your guts. It spreads like the smell of gasoline burning, sprayed across the concrete outside, destroying classified documents round the clock. The papers are in ribbons stuffed into plastic bags. The helos come in to land and rip them open. Little paper secrets floating through the air. The communists will take these strands of paper and piece them together to form their kill list. I know they will. They're smart. God, they're so smart. And they have so much will to fight. It's why we couldn't beat them. All that money. All those lives. At the time of the army withdrawal, South Vietnam had the 5th largest military in the world. 1 million soldiers ready to fight for their freedom. And now where are they? Dead. Or gone home. Or maybe they're out there with the communists now. One thing becomes clear to me. We haven't lost because of a lack of vision. It wasn't about democracy, it wasn't about communism either. There really wasn't a reason to stay. Apart from pride, apart from the cowardice of our leaders, afraid of taking a hit in the polls. The real power isn't in the White House or the Pentagon. It's in Dow Chemical and Bell Helicopter. Why did it go on so long? Because there was money to be made in a 20-year war. Domino theory. Ha! Domino theory? That's the greatest marketing tool in history. The secret to endless war, to convince a whole generation that every war is vital for the survival of freedom and that no war can simply end, as it once did. That we should involve ourselves in Vietnam's civil strife for 10 years, 20 years, 30 years. Fight forever. And never to let go, never to stop, to bomb and bomb until our anger turns to pain and then to regret. The scars of this land are embedded so deep, and our loss is surpassed only by the enemies and by the people. A single UH-1 helicopter costs $5.6 million to produce. There were over 16,000 built and deployed for the US Army. The B-52 Stratofortress development program cost $10 billion in 1955 and has year-on-year inflated 5-fold. The core ingredients at the heart of a Mark 47 napalm cluster bomb cost $40. The overall cost of the war, $1 trillion. So death is cheap, but war is not. Now I can see what everyone else has known for years but never could say. The truth that was evident when a man in bright orange robes immolated himself in downtown Saigon. It was there when Americans watched the nightly news with Walter Cronkite, and it revealed itself on the etched faces of terror at My Lai. The truth is that we have lost this war. Completely. Utterly. It's funny to say that out loud. I've never done that before. Americans like to think they exist outside of history, as if by making it, we can escape it. As if by being the most powerful actor, we can shape its detail and, like an artist, give it colour and meaning, and tell others what to think of our deeds. It doesn't always work like that. You're going to end up with different interpretations. It's night again. I lost track of time. I think they're fighting outside. I can sometimes hear them crying, desperately pleading with the Marines on the wall to let them in. My skin crawls like an insect. My head spilling open and flowing colour, thinly pooling on the wall of the office. In the spirals of my thoughts, I see that farmer in the paddy field and a sky of helicopters, all on fire. I thought I could save these people, but I don't even know them. The President's ordered us to leave the South Vietnamese behind. Said it's not our problem. He won't speak to me. They will hate me for leaving. But we have no choice. I can see that now. What can be done? Demand that the war go on forever? Let the killing never end? One flag falls, then another, until all the banners of the world are flattened and the mud buries them and the soil washes out their colours, until all that remains of this country is a thin layer of plastic and bone wrapped in white flags. Will there be another Arlington, another Tamarind, another war? Will we pass this delusion down from father to son? Like I did. Like I have. At 4 a.m, a C-Night chopper touches down on the embassy roof. There's orders from the President. I am to leave immediately. I guess this is it. Thomas hands me the folded flag like the one we placed over Glenn's coffin. It's so heavy. I hold it to my heart as our ride lifts into the sky. All the lights of the city guide us out towards the fleet. Before we got out of there, I watched Thomas write the last cable to DC. This will be the final message from Saigon Station. It has been a long fight, and we have lost. Those who fail to learn from history are forced to repeat it. Let us hope that we will not have another Vietnam experience, and that we have learned our lesson. This is Saigon, signing off. Sometimes I come here to clear my mind, when the fog gets too much. Being here helps. I walk through the rows. Here and there I can see a flag by the headstones. Flowers, little reminders that these were all once living men and women. Of course, we who live with loss do not need reminding, for we feel it every day. In Vietnam, they honour the dead just like us. They have many places like Arlington, with many, many markers. Again, like us, some of these graves are just symbols. There isn't a body to bury, but the memory is real. I've come to see Glenn. I look at his stone for a long time. Look at the words, the dates. I don't say anything. How could I? What words can make this right? I don't think there are any. How long does it take for a lesson to be learned? A generation, or even longer? Will we look at each other 20 or 30 years from now and ask, what have we done to each other? What will we keep doing? When future leaders speak of going to war, they should first come here, to these graves, both here and in Vietnam, and across all the places that remain obscured in memory, in Laos and Cambodia, at Kent State and the ruins of Hanoi, in the streets across America where soldiers fight the war again each night, and the children of Vietnam who live with the chemical memory of conflict. Let those men stand here and propose their new war, which they themselves will not have to fight. They should listen to the silence. Listen to the sound of a war that is over.
The cruel war is raging. Johnny has to fight. Oh, I want to be with him. Morning till night, I want to be.
The Tamarind Tree was written, directed and edited by Jack MacGregor, with performance by Matthew Zajac. Music from Stephen Griffith and Epidemic Sound, an independently produced audio drama.